Welcome back, everyone, to Random Thoughts. Coming to you today with another game breakdown, but this time we have something special for you. If you've been living under a rock, you may not be aware that there are now Phobies tournaments, Phobies events, and these, in fact, are community hosted. The game we're going to be taking a look at is from round one of J11y's tournament. So shout out to J11y for organizing this. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, join the official Phobies Discord, and trust me, you'll find a lot of information there, and you'll find other stuff there that'll probably help you along your Phobies journey. Just another point of note before we jump in, I am trying to set up my own Phobies tournaments and other Phobies events, because I think this is one of those scenarios where rising tides raises all ships. So the more events we have, the more excited people are, the more interesting it is, and I think that it could definitely help the Phobies community, and it's a lot of fun for everybody involved. But without much further ado, let's jump into the game. So we're going to be looking at Lufee versus Druid here. Now, this map actually just came back into the rotation. It was early on in my Phobies playing career when we saw it first. Now, Druid takes the first act here and actually opens up with a trap phobie in Venus, which is very interesting. Venus is a slower phobie, but given the choke points on this map, this is actually a really cool play, and I really like this. Now, we have a lot of different options that could happen here. Venus is a melee phobie, and it's slow. So you'd think, this is weird. But notably, for those of you out there who have not seen this, catching flies over here, which you actually probably can't see very well because I'm covering it, so I'm just going to read it to you. Catching flies is a 2-range trap. So despite the fact that Venus has a single range, it can fling a trap in line of sight at 2 range. And it's going to deal the same amount of damage as an attack. This is actually a really cool opener. And we happen to have the players in chat, so there will be some additional commentary because I'm doing this live on Twitch. And if you want to see some live Phobies action, come on over to my live Twitch channel, RTChompGG. But we do have Druid commenting and saying that he specifically picked this map for his qualities, which is, I would expect. Now, as a competing opener, Lufee instead went for one of the new Phobies that was introduced in a relatively recent patch, at least at the time it's recording, and it's Blinky. Very aptly named. Blink, and you'll be gone. So Blinky is a pretty tanky flyer. It is melee, but A, it's flying. B, it's undead, which is notably. He spends a fortune on contacts, though. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. But Blinky puts out a fair amount of damage. 490 with this level of mobility is pretty cool. Now, I don't know if this is an opener that Lufee particularly chooses on this map a lot, if he just wanted to force Blinky in particular, or what the impetus behind going with this phobie was, but I do like the opener. It's pretty cool. So let's see what they go with from here. So Lufee ends up, just because of the flying, is able to contest this middle spot right away, and I think this is actually a pretty cool idea, given the potential for the traps. Now, this trap placement is actually very interesting to me. You'd kind of expect that the traps, and I've said this before in trying to analyze trap placement, I think there's a lot of analysis that could go into it. I'm not going to break it all down now. Take 1,000 years. I talk a lot. You'll get that idea. I think if it was thrown onto the center tile, it probably would have been better. At some point in the game, your opponent is going to step on the panic point, right? It's not necessarily guaranteed that they're going to go here. If I were Lufee, I don't think I'm diving Venus here. I don't know that there's a big advantage to this particular placement, but we'll see if it plays in. Now, the other idea here is Mopsy, which I do really like. Getting that on-board threat, getting some board control, some map control from a Resurrect minion is pretty big. Even on these small maps where it's, everything gets clustered, everybody's all up in each other's stuff, they're in each other's face, and they're mixing it up, you can still manage to get extended value out of a Resurrect minion because of the Resurrection itself. So taking this top panic point is pretty important here. A bluff tactic is present here. Gotcha, Druid. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. So that's fair. That's fair. Playing a little mind games, which traps do allow. So Lufee here counters with one of my favorite phobies, and I feel like I say that about every phobie, but we're talking about Baby Snakey. I just joked about this because we were on the live stream in one of my own games, that Baby Snakey reminds me of stapler removers, which realistically, as kids, did anybody remove staples with this? No, they were always an alligator or a snake or some other monster. And here we are, which I'm sure played into the art, and I hope it is. Devs, if you're watching this, let us know, because I'd love to have that kind of tidbit lore. But Snaky is super strong. It is absolutely a bully. It's undead, and it's pretty tanky, and it puts out a decent amount of damage, so you can bully your opponent away. And then, of course, the other move was for Blinky to take the Lufee's panic point, because as you can see, they're kind of skewed to one side or the other. So the counterplay is to bank some keys, essentially. While there is additional board presence represented in Henrietta here, it's really just the banking of keys, I think, here. And additionally, we can see Gesundheit coming out, some more traps going down. This is really setting the stage for a later turn. Obviously, it's pretty simple to just eliminate the Mopsy here and then keep going. But we see another cool phobie that's coming out, and that's Octonauty. So now we have a pole available. The positioning here is interesting for me, and I want to take a moment to talk about what Lufee's doing. So Lufee here has Blinky, obviously got the free kill on Mopsy, Baby Snaky, and Octonauty. Notably, these tribes are undead, and dimensional. There is a Henrietta on the board. Now, given the stress levels that I know from these players, we should expect some sort of healing. I believe Lufee has access to Clinico, so it might just be that he doesn't care about the poison from Henrietta. And the Octonauty, because of the pole, represents an enormous threat where you can just start picking off key phobies, or just any phobies, and disrupting your opponent's ability to congeal into a unified force. I think poles are better than pushes, or boops, as you'll commonly hear on the channel. And oftentimes they are, because it's just easier to isolate something and say, yoink, I'm pulling that back, and I'm going to blow it up, as compared to, I have to go in to boop your stuff most of the time. Evo 2.0 withstanding, of course. But there is the risk here that you are now pushing yourself into a Clinico if you care about the poison. Maybe it doesn't matter, but Lufee's kind of in a bully position here. He should be able to dive and annihilate 5 keys worth, or 4 keys worth of stuff, hypothetically anyway. Even if they expect the trap to go down in the center, they probably won't choose to go in the trap you put down, so I don't know if it's the original move. Phobie diversity in this game. Yeah, this is a very wide array of different phobies, which I like. Especially this one. I see we have a flesh crawler enjoyer here. Now, as I mentioned just moments ago, you can see that the poison landed on the dimensional phobie. Makes sense. Now, here's the challenge. So we do have, before I get to the challenge, we do have Muffin Top. Muffin Top, for anybody who's not aware, is one of the sacrificial phobies, and it will sacrifice itself to heal and remove poison. It's a 1 key, which means it's not as significant of an investment. Therefore, we get Octonauty in a better position. Now, the interesting thing here is that Lufee elects to continue to fight the Flesh Crawler, and I want to take a moment for this. Lufee chose to stay in a concave against a Flesh Crawler, which is interesting. This Flesh Crawler is only a level 5, only. But Flesh Crawler's pretty powerful. As you can see, Raising Hell, he's going to go in, immediately hit everything for almost 700 damage. This is going to be gone momentarily, I'm sure. Now, and at the same time, the Flesh Crawler going in doesn't really make too much of a difference, because even if it goes in, it's probably just going to die. While it's undead and will heal, it's getting hit with 6 attacks. This Flesh Crawler probably can't stay here. So we'll have to see how this actually plays out. So we have yet more traps going down. This is something that I've mentioned on many occasions when talking about traps. There are now 3 traps on the board. This is bonkers. The whole field, it's a minefield everywhere. So our Flesh Crawler gets a free hit, somewhat free, on Blinky, and then backs off. Blinky's attack animation is ridiculous. Now, Lufee narrowly dodges the trap here. For now, we'll see if he decides to move in. And then we see, wow, we see a Woolly Bully. You don't see these too often. Woolly Bully comes out, and again, reading it out so people know what's going on, because you can't necessarily see it, because my big head's blocking the way. Peekaboo is a damage debuff with a 2-turn cooldown. Now, right now, the debuff will be for 336 damage. This is an interesting choice, and I could definitely see it having value on the Flesh Crawler. or even powering down one of these other lesser Phobies just so that you can dive it and get it out of the way. But we do see a chat favorite in Eternal Night going in and starting to beat up Blinky here. And the positioning battle now, in my opinion, despite being at a panic point deficit, in my opinion, is favoring Druid here. Because of all the traps, if Lufee ever goes in or ever accidentally takes a step in the wrong direction, it's going to end poorly. But Lufee does make a really cool play here. If you played any of the challenges, and it feels like at least a third, maybe half the challenges involve, well, kill this dimensional phobie to pull your guy forward so that way this can happen. You can do this other stuff. And we just saw it in a live, well, or not a live game, a recorded game, but you get what I'm talking about. So you blow up the Eternal Night with Woolly Bully, pulls Woolly Bully forward, and then you get the shrink onto Flesh Crawler. So you can see down here at the bottom, it has the minus 300 plus damage. Now, here's the part where Druid is probably kind of excited. We do see somebody walking onto a trap, and we're getting down to the point, oh no, no! Oh no! I mean, this is going to happen. This is exactly what I was going to say, is that at some point in this game, people were going to step on the trap, and it's exactly what we're seeing here, and that's 2 free attacks on these, which is presumably going to ensure their takedown. Here I use the Eternal Night to lure the Venus he used to make that a great play. Gotcha. So you were cognitively aware of it, Druid, that he was going to do that. It's the mind games on mind games. I thought the traps did AoE. This trap for Venus does not. The Venus trap does not do AoE. There are traps that do AoE. There are other traps that will freeze and other traps. I think there's a trap. Yeah, Fire Ant, I think, can put a trap that sets things on fire. I believe Baba Yaga is the one that has the AoE traps, but Venus is just straight 605 damage in this case. So as mentioned, and it didn't even require the AoE from Fleshcrawler here. It was just a lick plus some attacks, and suddenly Lufee's down 6 keys. Now, Lufee is not out of it. Definitely not out of it at this stage. Still has Octonauty, still has Woolly Bully, still has 4 keys, notably, but this is a rough spot. Oh no. Lufee, no! I think I can see where this is this is going south. Okay, so we have a sheep. The pull here was interesting to try and get the kill, but what probably happened, and this is one of the challenges with playing against trap phobies, is it's difficult to track when the traps went down at all. Like, full stop, when they went down, and then obviously they're traps. You don't know where they are. And the range on Venus means that a Venus here, which was in between where the Flesh Crawler and the Woolly Bully are, where they are now, means that that trap could be in a wide range of places. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, it could hypothetically be behind, but that's not going to happen, right? It's going to be in one of these places. It could be in any of a variety of places, and as a result, there's a lot of bad things that could happen. Now, this is a 17, almost 1800 health Octonauty, but all of a sudden it's much more fragile. So this is going to die effectively for free. This is brutal at this stage. Now, did Lufee make a mistake by staying there? Possibly. Because I think it's reasonable to assume that the in-range Venus, if it had a trap available, would place it under either that or Woolly Bully and kill it. Maybe he was just taking a gamble on which one it would be. Or it could have been, like I said, it was just difficult in order to determine. Oh, we got to pause for this. We got to pause for this. Just finish the thought and then look at this. It could have been that he was trying, either taking the 50-50 or just lost track of the way the traps were, because the traps, as mentioned, are difficult to maintain track of. But this is a really cool play, because you get the boop from Finnegan here. You get the sweet placement. This is a great sheep hit. This is a great sheep hit. I mean, look at this. You kill this thing just because you can. I don't know about walking this back, but I guess it was going to die. Yeah, it would have died from this position. You do get poison on the undead unit, but you're effectively playing Woolly Bully against both Canine and Flesh Crawler, and that's just a rough spot. He almost won with this. I was so terrified. I would be terrified if this happened. I would be terrified if this happened. So at this stage, after that connected, Lufee's out of keys, Druid's out of keys. Jinsting is going to be dead next turn. Dead to poison. The Flesh Crawler is going to die to poison if Lufee doesn't die. You know, he can't lose Woolly Bully. And Woolly Bully is not healthy right now. So it's really Woolly Bully has to connect with a power down on K9 and then get after K9. So this is going to be an exciting finish here. So we see the Flesh Crawler diving. That's expected. But here's the problem. Because Lufee is forced into this defensive position or having to be defensive, he has to then give up a lot of board position. So as a result, although he can come down here and cap this point, this thing is still alive, and it's in range. What I think needed to happen, and unfortunately, you're just limited on movement here. So this can move to here. If Lufee stayed in this spot, right now, like just below the heart, he's not going to die because there's still over 4,000 health left on the heart. The Flesh Crawler and Undead do not leech life from hitting the heart. And I assume Alistor doesn't either, but I don't have that to confirm. Now, you could have the K9 just then run around the map, but there's enough time that I think you could chase it down because you're not going to die from a single hit. It's going to be close. The problem is you need 2 hits. Basically, this scenario has to happen. Lufee has to get in range and power down the K9 and then kill it before the power down comes off. And I don't know if he can do that. Now, that being said, he could run around and they trade panic points until that scenario materializes. But that's difficult because Druid is coming at this from there's a life lead, a panic point lead, and you have the initiative, we'll say, as far as killing opposing Phobies. He doesn't have to dive in, but if Lufee dives him, then you'll win that exchange. So I think Lufee was feeling a lot of pressure here, and that's why this play happened. But obviously, Flesh Crawler comes down. It has its AoE, and that's all she wrote. But that was a really cool game. That got really close at the end because of that hard hit, and maybe 1 or 2 plays earlier in the game might have changed everything. But I appreciate the players. Shout out to both of them for sending in this particular replay and pointing it out. Shout out to the tournament organizers for actually putting this event on. If anybody else is playing in the event and wants to try and get their names in lights for a little bit, I'd be more than happy to do a review and do a breakdown of the game. But that's going to do it for this time. So as always, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and Black Lives Matter.